Good morning dear students. Let's begin with our chemistry class. Today I am going to discuss about the differences of metals and non-metals, and today in our previous class we discussed about the physical properties of metals and non-metals, and we discussed some ductility, malleability and many more like conductivity towards heat and electricity. So today we are discussing some chemical reactions that happen in the metals and non-metals and how they can be differentiated on the basis of them. So first we see the reaction with oxygen. So metals and non-metals, whom of them react with oxygen and how we can separate them on the basis of this reaction with oxygen. So you are familiar with the phenomenon of rusting of iron. You had learned that in both the process oxide formation takes place. So that's why we say that whenever we keep metal in open, so the rusting of metal take place and rust comes on metal. And why does it come? Because the outer layer of metal has reacted with oxygen, and that's why the rust is formed. There is an activity 3 in your NCERT book. Let us check the nature of rust formed as a result of reaction between iron, oxygen and water. So now we are checking that the rust, either the rust is acidic, basic, or what is the nature of that rust. So collect a spoonful of rust and dissolve it in a very little amount of water, and you will find that the rust remains suspended in water. Shake the suspension well. Test the solution with the red and blue litmus paper. What do you observe? Is the solution acidic or basic? Now whenever you are taking the solution of that rust by well mixing it before, and then you are putting the pH paper in it, then what do you get? Or litmus paper in it. So what is the observation? You must have observed that the red litmus paper turns blue. So we can say over here that the rust is basic in nature because it has turned red litmus paper to blue. So oxide of magnesium is also basic in nature. In general, metallic oxides are basic in nature. So here we see that magnesium is a metal, and when it reacts with oxygen it forms oxide of magnesium, and when the oxide of magnesium or the so-called rust is formed, it is basic in nature as we have discussed, as we have tested it from the litmus paper or pH paper. Now another activity here, the precaution is to be taken is to be demonstrated by teacher in class. Now this activity is to be handled with care. Take a small amount of powdered sulfur in a deflagrating spoon and heat it. If deflagrating spoon is not available, you may take a metallic cap of any bottle and wrap a metallic wire around it. So you can also take a spatula or any other thing that is available. Now what you have to do, as soon as sulfur starts burning, introduce a spoon into gas jar or gas tumbler. Cover the tumbler with a lid to ensure that the gas produced does not escape. Remove the spoon after some time. Add a small quantity of water into the tumbler and quickly replace the lid. Now shake the tumbler well and check the solution with red and blue litmus paper. So you see that what happens to this solution. Now observation will be, name of the product formed in the reaction sulfur and oxygen is sulfur dioxide, because here the reaction is taken place between sulfur and oxygen, and as the product form is sulfur dioxide, and when sulfur dioxide is dissolved in water, sulfurous acid is formed. This is a sulfuric acid. The chemical formula is H2SO4. The reaction can be given as follows: sulfur dioxide, that is SO2, when it reacts with water, or H2O, sulfurous acid, that is H2SO3 is formed. The sulfurous acid turns blue litmus paper red, and generally the oxides of non-metals are acidic in nature. So here we see that the non-metals oxides are acidic and the metal oxides are basic. Now the next one is the reaction with water. We have discussed with the reaction of oxygen. Now let us see how metals and non-metals react with water. Here you have to note, sodium metal is very reactive. It reacts vigorously with oxygen and water. A lot of heat is generated in reaction. It is therefore stored in kerosene. That's why we do not use sodium metal in open, because whenever sodium metal reacts with oxygen or water, it blasts or it catches the fire, because it is very reactive metal, and hence it is stored under kerosene, which is inert. Now let's take activity 5 in your NCERT book. Precautions to be taken, to be demonstrated by teacher, and the demonstration special care should be taken as the size of sodium metal piece is roughly the size of wheat grain. So this much small only should be taken and should be held with pair of tongs. Now this much precaution is taken because sodium metal immediately catches the fire. Now what is the activity? Take a 250 ml beaker glass tumbler, means its capacity should be 250 ml. Fill half of it with water. Now carefully cut a small piece of sodium metal, dry it using filter paper and wrap it in a small piece of cotton. Why you need to dry it? Because it was wet in kerosene. Now you have to take and wrap it in a small piece of cotton and put the sodium piece wrapped in cotton into the beaker and observe carefully. Now you can see in this picture the sodium metal will catch the fire and the beaker will have fire in it. Inside the water also the sodium metal will catch the fire. That means we can say that sodium metal reacts vigorously with the water. So here we can say that metals react with water. When the reaction stops, touch the beaker, what do you feel? Has the beaker become hot? Has the solution with red and blue litmus paper? Is the solution acidic or basic? So whenever we are talking about chemistry, first thing we need to see is the chemical identification, that is it acidic or basic? So here also we'll see, and we'll also see that has the beaker become hot or not. So observation, you observe that sodium reacts vigorously with water and some other metals do not do so. For example, iron reacts with water slowly. Generally, non-metals do not react with water, though they may be very reactive in air. Such non-metals are stored in water. Like we talk about the magnesium and sulfur dioxide gas. So there the non-metal was reacting, but here now it will not react, because we see that in oxygen it reacts vigorously, but in water it will not react, and that's why we can store these in water. For example, phosphorus is very reactive non-metal because it reacts in oxygen. Similarly, as we talk about sodium a metal, as it reacts with oxygen, to prevent it we keep it in kerosene. Why do we keep it in kerosene? Because kerosene and sodium do not react. Similarly, this is a useful property. Non-metal does not react with water, and that's why to prevent it from oxygen and reaction from oxygen, we keep it under water, because they both will not react. And for example, phosphorus is very reactive non-metal, so it catches fire if exposed to air. To prevent the contact of phosphorus with atmospheric oxygen, it is stored in water. Now, reaction with acids. Precautions to be taken. You have to keep the mouth of test tube away from your face and use test tube holder to hold the test tube. Now we will react metals and non-metals with acids. Now activities. Take sample of metal and non-metal in separate test tubes and label them as A, B, C, D, E, F with the help of dropper, and add 5 ml of dilute hydrochloric acid to each test tube one by one. Observe the reaction carefully. If no reaction occurs in a cold solution, warm the test tube gently. Bring a burning matchstick near the mouth of each test tube. Repeat the same activity using dilute sulfuric acid instead of dilute hydrochloric acid and record your observations. So here two acids we have used: dilute hydrochloric acid, that is dilute HCl, and dilute sulfuric acid, that is dilute H2SO4. And we have taken 3 metals and 3 non-metals. Is there a difference in the way metals and non-metals react with acids? What could be the pop sound in some cases be due to when a burning matchstick is brought near the mouth of test tube? You must have found that non-metals generally do not react with acids, but metals react with acids and produce hydrogen gas that burns with a pop sound. So whenever a metal is reacted with acid like HCl or H2SO4, it produces a hydrogen gas, and because of that hydrogen gas there is a pop sound. You must have noticed that copper does not react with dilute hydrochloric acid even on heating, but it reacts with sulfuric acid. The next activity is to be demonstrated by teacher, and during the preparation of sodium hydroxide. Now we are taking the reaction of bases with the metals and non-metals. Now prepare a fresh solution of sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide chemical formula is NaOH, and it is a base, in a test tube by dissolving 3 to 4 pellets of it in 5 ml of water. You have to take 5 of the beakers. You have to take 5 ml of water in each beaker, and you have to put 3 to 4 pellets of sodium hydroxide in each beaker. Bring a burning matchstick near the mouth of test tube and observe carefully. Now, what do you note? Beaker A, if there was zinc and we have brought copper sulfate. Now beaker B, there is iron and we have brought copper sulfate, that is CuSO4. In beaker C, there is copper tunings, or that is Cu, and zinc sulfate, that is ZnSO4. And beaker D, there is copper tunings again, that is Cu. The copper formula is Cu. Iron sulfate, FeSO4, and beaker E we have taken iron nil, that is Fe, and zinc sulfate, that is ZnSO4. Now observation is, as before the pop sound indicates the presence of hydrogen gas, metals react with sodium hydroxide to produce hydrogen gas. We have already discussed metals react with acid to produce hydrogen gas. Similarly, metals react with base also to produce hydrogen gas. Reactions of non-metals with base are complex, so we are not discussing that over here. Now displacement reaction is very important reaction in this chapter. Here we see that if any metal is taken and any solution is taken of any acid solution is taken, like we take one zinc metal and we take one copper sulfate solution, so here we see that zinc will displace copper from its solution and will form zinc sulfate, and copper metal will be formed now. Now this is very interesting reaction. Now we are discussing it. So you have to take 500 milliliter beaker and label them A, B, C, D, E. Take 50 milliliter of water in each beaker. Dissolve in each beaker a teaspoonful of each substance. That is given to you. Now observation is, you have read that one metal displaces another metal from its compound in aqueous solution. Now this is the displacement reaction definition. Now beaker A, zinc, replaces copper from copper sulfate solution. And why does it replace? Because copper is a weak substance and weak metal, that's why it easily gets displaced. That is why the blue color of copper sulfate disappears and a powdery red mass of copper is deposited at the bottom of beaker. Now this is an important reaction, and physically appearance is, when we are taking copper sulfate solution, it is blue in color, and when we put zinc metal in it, after some time we see that, as we have studied chemically, the zinc will displace copper. So now copper will be removed and zinc sulfate will be formed, which is green in color. So the solution, blue solution, turns into green solution. Now the reaction is copper sulfate, that is CuSO4, that is a formula, plus zinc, that is Zn. Now this is blue, copper sulfate is blue, will form zinc sulfate, that is ZnSO4, it is a green in color, plus copper, that is colorless. You can write down the reaction taking place in beaker B in a similar manner. Now there could have been displacement of zinc by copper in beaker C and by iron in beaker E. Similarly, iron could be displaced by copper in beaker D. Since we do not see any change in beaker C, we can infer that copper is not able to replace zinc from the zinc sulfate. But why? Because copper is less reactive than zinc, that's why it will not react with zinc, or it will not displace zinc. When zinc can replace copper in beaker A, why cannot copper replace zinc in beaker C? Remember that science is not arbitrary. It follows definite rules based on facts. Means whatever experimental facts you have seen, that only on basis of that only the science is framed. So here you cannot say that if zinc is displacing copper, the copper will also displace zinc. No, it is never possible. And why it is not possible? Copper is less reactive, so it will be getting displaced, but it cannot displace any other. It can only displace a metal which is less reactive than it, that is generally silver. Now, and the rule here is that zinc is more reactive than copper and iron. A more reactive metal can replace a less reactive metal, but a less reactive one cannot replace a more reactive metal. Now you can understand why there is no displacement reaction in beaker D and D. Now we discuss some uses of metals and non-metals. You should be able to guess why metals are used in making machinery, automobiles, aeroplanes, trains, satellites, industrial gadgets, cooking utensils, water boilers. You are also familiar with the uses of some non-metals, so we have to discuss them. Now uses of non-metals and metals. Here are some interesting ones. Non-metal essential for our life, which all living beings inhale during breathing. So oxygen, yes, oxygen is a non-metal which we inhale. Non-metal used in fertilizers to enhance the growth of plants. So there are many non-metals which are used, that are using that, like urea and many more, which are used as fertilizers, and nitrogen itself. The non-metal used in water purification process. So this is also one of the non-metal that you need to guess when we talk about. So there the non-metal which is used in water purification process is sodium. Then non-metal used in purple colored solution which is applied on wounds as an antiseptic is the potassium. Non-metal used in crackers. The crackers non-metal is graphite and carbon. Now you may add some more uses of metals and non-metals from your experiences. Now let's talk about elements. We have already discussed in our previous class. You have learned that in chemical reaction, new substances are formed. These substances are different from those which underwent the reaction. Now, if a substance cannot be broken down further by chemical reaction, by cooling, heating, or by electrolysis, means by any of the physical or chemical process, the substance is now not breaking further, it is element. Sulfur is an element, so is iron. Carbon too is an element. The smallest unit of element is atom. The sample of element contain only one kind of atom. Like if you are taking helium element, so helium element will always contain helium atoms. The atom of an element remains unaffected by physical changes in the element. So the atom will not go any changes. For example, an atom of liquid sulfur would be exactly same as atom of solid or vapor sulfur. Although we have infinite variety of substances in the universe, the number of elements forming these substances is limited, and there are no more than 92 naturally occurring elements. The rest one are prepared artificially or they are radioactive. An important classification of elements is the terms of metals and non-metals. Most of the elements are metals, less than 20 are non-metals. Now you can see that abundance is of metals. A few are metalloids also, which possess characters of both metals and non-metals. So you cannot distinguish them from metals and non-metals because they can react both. They can show properties both of metals and non-metals. They can either be lustrous, they can either be malleable, they can either not reacting with the water or anything else. So that's all for this, friends. Thank you and have a nice day.